We are.
There we are, and it's streaming.
Hey, welcome everyone to the June 2025 City of Geneva IDA meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Amy, would you like to read the mission statement?
Sure. The Geneva IDA was created to promote, develop, encourage, and assist in acquiring, constructing, maintaining, equipping, and furnishing certain types of projects and facilities to advance the job opportunities, health, general prosperity, economic welfare. Nicole knows how to do this. Thank you. General prosperity, economic welfare, and recreation opportunities of the citizens of the city of Geneva.
All right, thank you very much. All right, the agendas are before you. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Morning, Jan. How you doing?
Morning, thank you.
I have one, the micro enterprise grants assistance program, MAP, is up for this year. Jennifer Sutton has asked for our support, like the city does every year. So I'd like to add that to the new business, just to discuss who on the board here might participate. We can wait till that. Okay, motion to approve the minutes. Is there any other additions? Okay, motion to approve the minutes. Thank you, Lowell. RJ second. Moved. All right, the May minutes were attached. Obviously, most of it it's from our meeting down at the bid conference room. Anything there that people see that needs to be corrected? All good. I'd like a motion to approve the May minutes. In favor, say aye.
I'll second.
RJ first. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks. Financial report, Adam.
Thank you. For the month of May, there was no activity. So that always makes it easy. Net income currently, we have a loss of about 31,000, and that is due to we have had some interest come in from our investments, but some payments to bid for our agreement there. We will have a deposit of $500 from Lakeview for their pilot application. It just will show up in June, not May. Other than that, there's been no, like I said, no activity for May. I did want to give a quick update on the financial audit as well. I did finally hear back from our auditors. They sent me a couple things that they need, which we're getting them that information. So we hope to have that audit wrapped up next week. And then we can get everything submitted to the state website. We'll be all caught up.
Record time.
Well, it's yeah.
Comparatively speaking.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Do you know what they're charging for the audit?
Might be able to see here. I want to say around 6,000-7,000 a year.
For the uninitiated, when they hear $30,000 in negative, what's the prognosis? Just where's the money going to come from to balance that out?
Well, I believe it was budgeted that way in the agreement with the bid. You know, there's certainly a potential with the developments that are out there, pilot applications. If a pilot gets approved at some point, there's a fee that comes to the IDA for that. So that's potential. We never budget for those though, because they can
Years.
Yeah, and we could have a development that comes in tomorrow and not see a fee for 3 years. So we never budget for those. We're hopeful for them at times. But for 2025, it was budgeted to basically have a year of a loss to cover those costs with bid.
Can we still continue to operate when we're always at a loss?
And until the
Most
IDA runs out of
businesses
money,
can't, yeah.
while there's still money in the bank, we can. And I think that was the mindset, when this budget was adopted last year, was, okay, we'll get through one more year like this, and then there was potential for developments. Again, they can look very promising and then not happen, and so we don't plan on them.
Okay, just,
So definitely something to discuss for this, the 25-26 budget. And as a reminder, the fiscal year ends September 30th. So we'll actually want to get moving on that, midsummer, which is
Next month.
right about now. Yeah.
Any questions of Adam? Well, before we move on. I'd like a motion to approve the financial report for May. RJ, thank you.
I'll second.
All right, well, there's my left and right hand man.
Yeah, right.
Okay, GDC report, I don't see, Webster's not on, right?
No.
Okay.
And he was trying to get on. But. He says, let him in. I wonder if he's in an old Zoom.
What if you go to the Zoom tab? What do you see us on the Zoom?
I thought,
This is-
Irene said she was gonna try to get on to,
She emailed this morning saying she couldn't.
she didn't make, okay.
If you.
I'll just send him a quick email.
Okay, we've scheduled, last meeting, I'll move on to the next item for the GADC. Last meeting, we approved a $2,500 expense to have Tom Mancuso, who has a history with the GEDC. Had managed it for 12 years, has got a tremendous amount of experience in taking older buildings and making them into viable assets for cities, large and small. Buffalo, mostly on the western part of the state, but like I said, was involved. He reached out to us, made a presentation about, to actually Adam, myself, and well, David was involved and just to say that, there's some opportunities there that maybe we're not understanding or seeing, and so he offered to essentially put a presentation on, not just to our group in general, but to also include the city council and some other economic development partners in the area, of folks from Cornell, from the Ag Center, and also the county, Ryan Davis and his crew. Hopefully we'll get someone. The meeting's been scheduled for July 1st at 6 p.m. We decided to do it at night, just so we can get more participants involved. I think what we're trying to do is get buy-in to what we may in fact be able to do with understand what we may be able to do with the building and get buy-in from all the people that might have a say in it, particularly the city, since the city has such a large portion of that building occupied. I think that needs to be folded into what the city council's agenda is also. So, and I think, and Adam can attest to it, I think Tom is certainly a enthusiastic proponent of taking old buildings and making them useful. And like I said, is a good memory, because, institutional memory of what the GEDC was like in the beginning and possibly what it could be in the future based on his experience with these other buildings around the state. But
Where is that meeting gonna be held?
probably here, right in this room.
It's gonna be at the Bozzuto Center because it's bigger.
Got it. Okay.
And the invitations have already been sent out to all of city council, to Ontario County, to the Center for Excellence at Cornell. And I believe that's it.
Thank you for doing that.
Oh, and Craig Talmadge is the chair of the LDC and our host will also be attending.
It's just, it is, something that's kind of been pushed aside on the north side of town here and not really attended to. Some of that's on us. We're just kind of expecting it to manage itself. And obviously the problems we've had with it the last couple of years attest to the fact that it can't be ignored. So I think that's what this effort's about. We felt that he would be a good person to give that presentation. So looking forward to that July 1st.
Yes.
Steve's on the call. Hi, Catherine.
Webster is no.
That's it? Okay, so I don't think much has happened, when we talked to Craig at the meeting. There's not much activity, going on at the can. They're showing us a few spaces here and there, but on that, it's kind of same. I think the sprinklers are still off. I don't know. I haven't heard. That's what I was gonna ask them. They were turned off because of some leaks in the old building
Yeah, I don't believe they have
and,
repaired.
which is not good for our insurance. Nope. I don't know if they have wind of it yet, but anyway. All right. Let's move on to the agenda item, Sven, unless there's any questions about the GDC. Lakeview Loft pilot application. We have a public hearing set for July 10th at 6 p.m. And where's that gonna be held?
That will likely be held here next door.
Okay, Amy, why don't you
Yeah,
report them?
I don't have a lot to update on. We're still working through. There were some final questions on the application that David West had started working through, and I just need to finalize those. And then we'll be able to provide that. We also have contracted with MRB to do the cost benefit analysis. And there's a couple pending questions on that and we'll back and forth, and we should have that for you guys in the very near future.
Okay. Any questions on that? You guys got anything to ask? As long as you showed up. Hate to not exempt you from the meeting, but anything or no? But it's just the application. Well, we're setting the public hearing, which is just.
Sure. I guess the only thing I'd ask, if there's a cost benefit analysis, it'd be a broad cost benefit analysis, not simply dollars and cents, but an idea of what the positives to the community would be, what the negatives to the community would be. Let's not just look at this as a financial situation, a certain number of $36 million going in for $500,000 per unit. If that's a good thing for our community, not just the tax base, not just the income coming into you folks, but the overall big picture.
Okay, so that hearing is set for the 10th. Let's, obviously, we all should be there to listen to, the comments. The next item is the GEDC committee report, which go on, sorry.
I'm sorry, I do have a couple just brief questions on the Lakeview Loft application, if we have a second to talk about that.
Oh, sure. This is what this.
So the applicant is applying for a 30-year pilot, and I didn't know if there was a precedent that was set previously where we had issued a 30-year pilot, or if that was even allowed via UTAB.
We have.
Yeah, it's in the past, the IDA board has had obviously different preferences. In the past, there have been 30-year pilots that have been allowed. It's been kind of the temperature of the board if they wanted to do 30,
Okay.
15, depending on the amount.
Usually 15, ones that I've seen here.
We have 15, we have 20, we have 10, we have 30.
We've had ongoing after renewal.
Yeah, there's.
They've been renewed, yeah.
Mhm.
Multiple times.
Yeah, it's really it kind of depends on the size of the pilot
Okay.
and then the kind of the board.
I think a lot of it, Josh, has to do with the viability of the project. They have to demonstrate that it's necessary
Right.
and
Right.
for the numbers to work. This pilot, this is also a little bit different, as will be the one for home leasing where it's a straight line pilot. Normally we have I don't know if it's progressive, I guess it is, where it starts at a very low rate for the first couple of years of operation, assuming a business would appreciate that and then ramp them up to 100% after about 15 years. We do have a template that we use
Okay.
that kind of shows that, and that's the suggested template. Now, that's negotiable. So if someone comes back and says, well, I got a balloon mortgage, that I have to do this, I mean, as long as they come up with some reason, then we look at it and we've adjusted the payment schedule. But that's kind of, we developed that template a number of years ago that kind of gives us something to start with.
Yeah.
Okay,
And most of it is, I mean, we did that because that's the way most of the pilots have run. And so that we kind of use that template. This seems to be the prevailing way of doing this. But in this case, they want both these housing things, they want, they call it door, how many doors? They want the same amount of taxes.
Yeah,
per-
it's a bedroom, like, it's not a bedroom tax, but it's per
Because as they collect
doors.
rents, then they could pay the tax.
I just have this vague recollection, I'm sure I'm off on this, but when we were looking at the old American Legion property, I thought there was something about pilots not going to residential or condominiums or something. like that.
Condominiums.
Just condominiums.
Yep, condominiums are treated very differently than apartments and.
Yeah. I remember we were hoping they were gonna be a townhouse and then they became.
Yeah, it's a different tax thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got it.
It's because who owns the when you're have an apartment, you're renting,
Mhm.
condominium, there's an
You're
owner.
owning it. I got it.
It's just like we don't do pilots for single.
Right.
I mean, the same
Right,
thing.
makes
So it's-
sense.
One thing I'll add too is, typically with these types of projects where there is an affordability component, typically the pilots are coterminous with whatever that regulatory period is, which is typically kind of 30 years when it comes to having certain affordability requirements. So that's typically where the IDA pilots fall, is whatever that time period is. Into the one question about housing, and I can send this around to everybody. There is a comptroller opinion that does state that IDAs can incentivize housing. The condominiums is obviously a no-go. But for rent, so forth, that's all permitted.
And one other thing that I did forget, but having Stephen talk just now reminded me, for the July 10th meeting, he has recommended that we have a stenographer there because if we have a lot of public comment, just so that we can capture it all.
Sure.
Nicole does a great job, but it gives us another record. So we will do that. And if the board is okay with that and I'll go through, I will work with his firm to make that happen.
Sounds good.
Good idea.
Go ahead, Josh.
thanks. So for the 30-year pilots that we've historically done, and I know it's up to the board or kind of taking the temperature of the room, but what projects are those usually associated with? Is it more industrial component? Is there usually more of an employment component, or is it just based off of like microeconomics at that point in time?
So
Probably the last.
one was industrial, which was Guardian. Back when it was the Ramada, that was 30-year.
Yeah.
So it's
Guardian's 15.
And both of
that
15.
originally though,
Guardian,
Most recent one that Matt did with me is 15.
Right, but the original one.
with Guardian. Yeah, the original one was 30 and then the Ramada Hotel also is 30. So it's been kind of,
and some of these bigger ones get renewed. I mean, they come to us after the end of the term.
and that's what happened.
Negotiated,
Guardian.
particularly if there's the case of Guardian where they made a huge investment to rebuild the furnaces that and it was a reasonable request. So we extended, we actually gave them another pilot.
Yeah,
on-
but in that
on
case.
investment, essentially based on that
Yeah,
investment.
and in that case, it was renewed for, as you mentioned, 15 years rather than the original 30. So just because it started off as 30, they can, whatever's renegotiated.
Okay.
So.
And then the last question, and it probably was already answered based off of the template that we use for a baseline, but the 500 per unit proposed tax, do we have an idea of how, like a brief top line overview of how that's computed? Because it ends up being about
There is-
37-ish thousand a year.
David
Mhm.
had an email out that said, and actually, I think it's gone up to like 684 is the number for.
yeah, it's been modified some and that's the continued back and forth. It's not finalized at that 500.
No, and they've got a ways to, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's they can get pilot, and Stephen, I might need your help for this.
Mhm.
They can get a pilot from that regulatory agency, right? Not a pilot, but they can get some sort of relief, tax relief by that. But that's subject to political change and we're a little bit more stable.
Okay.
As far as the way the pilot is, that's the way David explained it,
Yep,
that that there was, I don't know what the agency that could give it to them, but it's something to do with their, being a nonprofit, that they're eligible for to apply for that, but I guess, again, it wasn't, they kind of would appreciate us doing it just so it would be a straight line type of thing that is a little bit more predictable.
Okay.
They didn't want something that could vary year to year.
Is there a formula for calculating that? There must be if you get that.
Yeah,
Yes, there is.
yeah, and I didn't see it. I was just told about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's some spreadsheets on it that I can share when,
And I think MRB will probably help us with something.
Yeah, that's-
Benefit.
that's what they are doing. So we'll have more.
Okay, thanks.
And does the 684 figure, did that include city, county?
Yes, it's what
It's all across. the
I think
board,
that's all in.
Yeah.
That's all in.
I believe so.
That's the school and, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, if possible. I think we'd just be available, like you said, to have that spreadsheet. Just
Once we have it.
Yeah, oh, once, okay, okay. Sorry, I didn't know if we had.
No, it's right now.
Right.
It's a tool that we are using with MRB.
Okay,
And so once
Okay.
they finalize that tool, because they have to
Okay.
update it all.
okay.
Like the next time, if you're up for it, Josh, you could fill it in, so we don't have to pay them to do it, okay? But it's, I mean, we did buy the program,
Okay,
so it's just that we felt because of the changes with David.
Sure.
Leaving
No.
stuff, it'd be better if we had them fill it in for us.
no, that makes sense.
But it's costing us some money that Lowell points out we don't have, so. I think, you know.
Yeah.
So pay attention, because next time it might be. All right.
That's why you're on the board. It was in your resume. Do this.
My gosh, I don't know how to comment.
Okay, any other? You're satisfied, good. That's good. Well, thank you for the questions. Any other questions about this, the public hearing, obviously? Let's come ready to listen. The GEDC committee report, there really wasn't much
Yeah,
to.
just a couple things. I know that we spend about 200,000 a year to maintain the GEDC. I heard that number from David.
Mhm.
And, you know, we have to pay the consultant and, it's spot improvements, you know, when we have a leak, we fix it. When something's out of whack, we try and fix it. And it's one of the, you know, the largest, renter is the city. And we talked about, the cost per square foot that the city pays, which is really, really low. And my intent is to try and, if we're gonna keep it, to try and balance that, so we're not having to come up with 200 grand a year, adjust the rents where possible. So that's my take. And I've heard of this Mr. Mancuso. I might have even dealt with him like 30 years ago in the Buffalo area. So yeah, he is an expert. Looking forward to hearing from him. That's about it.
And they did write the book on it, so.
Yeah.
Have you read any of it? You said you.
I bought it though. It's
Read
there.
about half of it, and it's
It's on Adam's desk too.
Mhm.
okay, Lowell,
Here right now.
next item on.
You don't want to read it out loud.
Any other question about the GEDC?
You know?
Trying to move this along a little bit. Summer's a hard time to do things like this, but you know,
It's a lot
thanks for your
going on.
participation.
Yeah, it is.
GEDC awards, we had a event Friday night. Lowell, why don't you?
Sure. Yeah, I started it back in October by going to Lowe's and asking them if they would contribute. They just kept putting me off. And then I went to HEP Materials and HEP said, sure, we'll give you a bucket each. Anyway, and that's when we started to identify people that have done great things in their homes and properties. So I came up with 3 homes and 2 big historic apartment buildings. We had a session at the Pizzuto Center. We had to find extra chairs. That was really fun. That was really fun. Couldn't have done this without Catherine. Catherine, when it comes to computers and all, they don't mention, it's like oil and water. And she really came through, with hours with me, trying to figure out what to do with all these photos. We prepared these boards. I didn't even know that Hobart and William Smith could print these things right on the board. I mean, it's not stuck on. And they did it in a day. It looks so professional. I went to pick it up and just, all it did was give them a check, give these great boards. It was just terrific.
You had at least one property owner that I think was more excited about being able to take home the board than the actual plaque. I think he asked everyone if he could have the board and I was like, I think so. Look at that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun and Will's giving me too much credit. He did all the work, all the lead work. I just sat in front of my computer for a little bit. And the mayor gave you a nice shout out, Lil, last night, what's today? 2 nights ago at city council.
Yes,
Oh,
he
you
did.
did? Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jan was there. Ann was there. It was really fun. And
Was
then
there.
every single award recipient with their families came.
Good.
And Dave West came up with his kids
Mhm.
and his wife.
That was so sweet.
That was really nice. And I'm Mr. Plaque, so I got another plaque for him. And it was really nice.
Was.
I appreciate the support and I've already had people asking me about next year.
That's good.
Yep.
So I plan on continuing as long as I can.
Well, and Lil too, you also got wonderful press through the Finger Lakes Times and Finger Lakes One and other Finger Lakes.
Through the
local
city,
Yeah.
your blasts out.
Digital media. It was a really great, I think, PR event for the IDA. So thank you for all that you did.
No, advertising was terrific. Appreciate that.
And I did have someone ask and I said, go ahead and talk to the newspaper about it. If they could do like a multi-part series in the newspaper on each of the properties based on the kind of the presentation. And so I said, if they want to do that, connect with Lowell. But I think that would be kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, keep it going.
Mhm.
Okay, director's report, Amy, do you want to come up with the ongoing projects, just say where we're at with some stuff?
Sure. So ongoing projects, we've talked about Lakeview Lofts, Home Leasing held their community meeting where they talked about, well, they had an entire team there. So they had Labella, who is serving as on the environmental side of things, their architects, and then members of Home Leasing. And they talked about the environmental review of that area. And it was meant to be more of a listening session than a discussion session. I think they got a lot of information. Like John, he was there as well. You know, there were about 20 people, 25 people that attended. Some live in the community, some I think were curious about the project. And they made it very clear that everything is conceptual at this point. There is no actual project. What they did for purchasing the property from the city and putting it under contract was showed an idea of what they could do with that site. It's not the picture they showed, all of that. She actually said, you know, it's a square box on a piece of land is what we showed you because that's kind of where we're starting. But they want to hear from the community on that. So there'll be ongoing communications on that. I don't know when they'll be bringing that project forward to here because I think they have some continued conversations they want to have with that.
I was impressed as how respectful they were of everyone speaking.
Yes.
And really trying to make sure that they heard. I think even the one of the owners said that she'd be glad to walk the neighborhood with the people. I mean, it was a really nice, like I say, respectful is the best word. They were not argumentative. They thanked them for all the comments but did emphasize that this is just the first steps of a very long process for them to go through.
And I think they also, I found it good that they would follow up with questions. You know, one of the community members said, you know, I've looked at some of your projects. And she said, well, which ones? Not because, but I want to understand which ones you've seen and how that may apply here or not apply here. So they were trying to have a true conversation.
They're class outfit, really are.
So that one, it may or may not be here. I don't know when, but I know that they're looking at that, a pilot application in the future potentially. Other projects, updates, I don't believe I have anything else major. You've kind of hit on them all.
No, not right now.
Yep.
Okay, the agenda item that I added was the Micro Enterprise Advisory Committee. The IDA supports this assistance program. The MAP is a funding, I think they're the grants of, and I don't know how. Catherine, do you know anything about the Micro Enterprise?
So it's not micro enterprise anymore.
Right.
They changed the name. It's now called BEST. I don't know what that stands for off the top of my head.
I don't either.
But New York State decided to change their name. And so the grants, I think the largest that we gave out this last time was 20 or 25.
25.
25, you can do a range. Some years you guys, the group that has helped coordinate this has done very small grants. What I think through discussion with many of the different applicants and others, and right now Jennifer is meeting with all of the applicants that just went through the last round, doing a monitoring review, getting some really great suggestions on how to improve the program in the future. One of the things though, that is always a challenge is what's the right amount mix? Because there's limitations. The state sets a range, so you can't go above that range, but they modify it. And so that's what the committee does. I will say that council will be talking about this at some point. It's been tabled twice. Hopefully the July meeting, they'll talk about it because they want to be more involved in the committee piece. In the past, how the committee has functioned, and I know only about this from one round because that's all I was here for. And it was, we followed the old recipe to make it happen again. So the way it was done is members from the LDC, the IDA and the BID, along with city staff who did staff support, would meet, finalize, review the application before it went out to make sure it met all of the criteria. And then the application would go out and then that committee would review the application and make the awards. There have been some council members that would like to be more involved in that.
No, I think that this last time that we didn't review any applications. This last review, this last.
A member of the BID did. I believe so.
Okay,
They were at least asked because I oversaw that process
Okay.
at that time.
okay, then it's very possible that one of our board members who didn't give any feedback back. I do think that just this
Yeah.
committee that I want to make sure that I say this in as many forms as possible. When we do the grants this time, we need to make sure that we're awarding people that can actually find spaces. So a lot of grants were given out to locations that needed hoods and or had very specific rental requirements. So it became very difficult for them to see the work done that they had the grant for because they couldn't find the location.
And we actually had to take back funding from, not take back, but they gave their funding back. I think that's something that we can put in the pre-application is that you have to have an identified space. The challenge with that is the idea of this program is to help spur a new business. And so that's a challenge. It also can go to existing businesses, which I think people don't always realize. If they're going to change, it's tied to jobs. So if they're going to add something, so Vinifera added their coffee section. And so they added more hours, they are adding increased staffing, they received a MAP grant. The other challenge too is what can be purchased by that. And then on the other side, a lot of your MAP grant application or applicants need funding from the revolving loan fund because it's all reimbursement based. So when you're giving an award of $25,000 to a startup business, it's very hard for them to have the cash flow. So lots to consider there, but it'll be helpful to have in whatever form the committee takes place, if we get the award. That's the other thing, is we have to apply again to New York State. This is related to CDBG funding. There is state funding available this round because of how fiscal years work. This may or may not be the final year because CDBG funding is definitely at stake in the federal budget.
And the IDAs usually have someone there. I've been on that committee years ago, the advisory committee, and I know Irene was, I think, last year.
I think so, yeah.
So I'm asking for a volunteer.
I'd love to be a part of
All
that.
right, great. So Jan. please, we'll be
I mean,
ready.
I don't want to take it away
No,
from
no,
anyone, but.
well, and she didn't say,
you want to-
Jennifer in the letter to me did not say that it had to be one representative. I mean, there's really no reason why we can't have a good representation, but it's a good program. But I think there are some, like what you mentioned, some things that we have to be mindful of, not just hearing a good story, but is the story got some substance behind it? And looking at business plans and things like that. A lot of it is, at least the ones that I remember, pretty much pie in the sky. But they had an idea and this is what they'd like. If you give me the money, I'll figure it out. And I think it needs to be figured out.
And I will say that there's a scoring rubric that goes along with it, goes with the application, so the applicants see what they're scored on. Does not mean they'll supply that information.
Right.
But I think there's also some improvements to be done. Again, we copied and pasted because it was my first year coming on board and it made sense. We got the grant. But now I have staff that have been through it. And Jennifer Sutton has helped coordinate it from behind the scenes. So she's got a lot of ideas of how to continue to improve.
So I signed a letter on behalf of the board saying that we support this effort so that for the application.
Yep.
But Jan, thank you. for stepping up and
Thank you.
let Jennifer know. Any other questions about that? Okay, if not, I think we're at the end of the open meeting. We do have some things to discuss in executive session. So I ask our visitors to thank you for attending. And then we should, I need a motion to go into executive session.
I move we go into executive session.
Second, RJ, see, I got these guys, great. All right,
And we're not gonna. I will take us off of YouTube or Nicole will help you take us off.
You can
I think.
live stream, but you might lose Steve.
Where do I fall in that? I'm not sure. I'm
You go to
assigned by the mayor to be here, but.
The little box
Steve,
in the black box corner.
Oh, I can do it up here too.